purpose of this film is to tell the tale and show the sights of international espionage from the Cold War in Berlin. However, you can't completely ignore the Berlin Wall, or indeed where we are right now, which is the headquarters of the Stasi. That was the East German secret police and security force. The Stasi wasn't just responsible for security at home. One of its most important departments was the Hauptverwaltung für Aufklärung. This was basically the foreign intelligence service of the GDR, and was led by a man called Markus, recognized around the world as one of the greatest spy masters, if you're talking about spycraft, of all time. In fact, he fascinated John le Carré and is effectively mentioned in many of his novels, because Markus Wolf was famous for the fact that nobody had ever been able to identify him or had any idea what he looked like until 1987, which even for a spy master is an extraordinary achievement. The East German intelligence service had many operations abroad. After all, it was pretty easy to feed people into West Germany in particular, as there were no passport controls on the western side. The most famous case of all was a man called Gunther Guillaume, who managed to infiltrate West German politics of the SPD, that was the Socialist Party, and eventually he became the assistant to Willy Brandt. And the result of his work was that Willy Brandt had to resign as Chancellor of Germany. It's particularly ironic, really, that the East German regime called these spies Kundschafter des Friedens, kind of bringers of peace, scouts of peace, considering that Willy Brandt, of all West German leaders, probably had the most positive policies towards actually bringing West Germany and East Germany closer together, whilst recognizing the realities of the international political situation. That was called Realpolitik. This protective screen was built so that people in the neighborhood would not be able to see when the leader of the Staatssicherheitsdienst, Erich Mielke, arrived or left by car. Paranoia was a common feature of pretty much everything that the Stasi did.
We've now entered Stasi HQ, passing by one of the vans which took prisoners for questioning. Past the Stasi's coat of arms, symbols of friendship between the GDR Stasi and the Soviet KGB. This is Erich Mielke's office. Notice behind his desk the open safe. When the GDR fell, it was found full of papers and a small suitcase in the bottom right-hand corner, full of compromising material about Erich Honecker, state and party leader, true brotherly love. Oh, and a recording device for all his meetings. East Germany, the perfect surveillance state? They use these machines to steam open letters. And this to check that there was no invisible writing. Looks like a hospital probe, but it's actually to get inside those parcels and see what's there. A button camera, I think that's my favourite spy accessory. And here, your own stereo spying on you.
And after having gone around the entire museum, I decided actually to pop into the archive, the Federal Archive for Stasi documentation, and ask, as is my right, to see whether there is a Stasi file about me from my time meeting many people and students and teachers from the German Democratic Republic. I've waited 35 years, but now I've done it. And it's remarkable, really, in terms of a sign of openness. Anyone, German or foreigner, can ask whether they have a file. It's a service that's free of charge, and I'm told it will take about 6 weeks to find out whether there is a file, and a year until I can see any contents, if there is. But I think it's worth doing, and I'm pretty sure that if there is anything, it'll be worth another episode of Travel in the Know.
At Magdalenenstrasse Underground Station, we're fortunate enough to be able to take our leave from the Stasi and head across town to the German Spy Museum.
Pretty hard to imagine that this was actually directly in the middle of the Berlin Wall. Leipziger Platz, Potsdamer Platz. In fact, it was just a vast green empty space. A very, very wide gap between the wall on both sides. I don't know, probably 100 meters, perhaps a little bit more. And bunny rabbits were the only creatures that could run around without really being in danger of getting shot. Pretty rare for rabbits, really. And this is roughly where the Spy Museum of Berlin is located. Here we have a point from Napoleon, the slogan where he said, "One spy in the right place is worth 20,000 men in the field." Spy radio from 1942. Here are lots of spy items from the Second World War. It's quite interesting because the museum points out that German intelligence was far less successful than British intelligence. I love these playing cards. You can see they're actually secret maps. And this is the famous German Enigma. After our short excursion into the history of espionage in the First and Second World Wars, and even a little bit before that, we're now entering an area we recognise from our film, the Cold War. Look at this, a bug in somebody's belt. Wow, I'm sure that could be embarrassing in certain circumstances. This is quite a fun exhibit. You can actually look for bugs and see how successful you are in a timed challenge. Are you coming to Marlborough country? Guess what? There's a camera in there as well. By the way, just to tell YouTube, this is not cigarette advertising. This is serious work about espionage. A camera in a bra. I can imagine what East German intelligence might use that for. This watering can is quite remarkable. It is half watering can, so you could put water in and use it for its usual purpose. And then the bottom half was actually a camera. This was even used by the Stasi at funerals of dissidents. So here we have the infamous and ubiquitous East German Trabant 601, the most popular car, or certainly the most driven car in East Germany. But this one has a different purpose. Built into the side door, it has infrared lighting. Now, you couldn't see it like that when it was being used in service. It was obviously covered, but the infrared lighting could actually see through and pierce through the covering. Nearby, there would be an infrared camera as well that was triggered effectively by the Trabant lighting an object for surveillance. Now, amazingly, this whole setup actually cost some 215,000 marks, and that would have been something like 80,000 pounds, and that's back in the day, back in the 1980s. Secret weapons sex. Not sure we should go too far into this one. Look at this warning though. Beware of female spies. Women are being employed by the enemy to secure information from Navy men on the theory that they are less liable to be suspected than male spies. Beware of inquisitive women as well as prying men, just in case. They haven't forgotten James Bond. But here's the YouTube man. Camera action.
In 1989, the East German people insisted, "Wir sind das Volk," we are the people, and helped to bring the Cold War to an end through the collapse of East European communism.
And if you're interested in spying, remember that Berlin is the capital of spies. I'd be really grateful if you'd give me a thumbs up, and why not subscribe if you've liked the content. You know, it makes a big difference to my YouTube channel and to building a community. And finally, ask for notifications so that you know when there's going to be new content just as it drops.